So believe it or not, I get a lot of crap on a regular basis from individuals that are mad at me. And that's okay. I mean, I get mad at myself almost every day of the week. But the reason why these people are mad at me is because I'm stating the truth of gig work. You see, I can understand that negative Nancy's are annoying. I hate them. I'm relatively a positive person. But I am not trying to be negative about gig work people. I am trying to expose the truths. And sometimes when you are talking the truth about gig work and you're making people aware, you empathize the problems with it a little bit more detailed. Either that or voiceovers just really do get to people, because this one has been interesting. In today's podcast, I am going to tell you some key reasons why you may want to avoid being a gig driver. But I want you to know that I'm not doing it to be a negative Nancy. I am not doing it because I hate what I do for a living. That's far from the truth. I'm doing it because if I don't express the negative things and people are signing up here just for the positive and not thinking twice, then what use would I be here on YouTube, considering my YouTube channel is devoted towards helping brand new delivery drivers get started with these gig apps. And to be honest, a lot of the positive videos don't show the truths upon being a delivery driver, and that's all that I want to do. So, with that being said, if you don't like to hear negative Nancy's, this podcast would not be for you, because my name is Ash and I'm a fellow gig worker here on the South Shore of Montreal, Quebec. And currently, I work for Uber Eats, for DoorDash, for Skip the Dishes, and previously, I used to work for Instacart. And to some, I am considered a negative Nancy, but I'm going to be honest with you, my lovelies, I don't give two because I'm not going to stop bringing up awareness about these gig companies. If you want a full detailed route about reasons why you should not sign up for these companies, then stay tuned. We're going to talk about it, and I'm going to go deep just for you to truly understand. All right, so let's begin with the number one reason why here, my lovelies, that you might not want to be aboard being a gig worker or a delivery driver, and that's because this is not stable income. Now, when I say stable income, please don't be the negative Nancy in the comments saying I work hard to make my money. Nobody said that you don't work hard to make your money. I'm sure you're very stable at making money. That's not what I mean. What I mean by a stable income is, let's say every single day you clocked in the exact same 8 hours work with the same 8-hour time slot 5 days a week. Let's go with Monday through Friday just to keep the calendar simple. When it comes to being a delivery driver, just because you might have had one good Thursday and one good Friday last week, you have no idea if you're going to get that this week. And when you think the days are busy days, sometimes they're not, and they're dead days. When you are a delivery driver, you run essentially off of tips, and this is definitely according to working for the 4 companies that I've worked for: Uber Eats, DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, and Instacart. Now, you do make a base fare of essentially $3, but that's it, that's all. So because of that, this is all tip-oriented. And if you think tips are a stable income, they are not. I actually hate working off tips. That part I'll admit. Again, I'm not being negative. I like what I do, but I hate working off of tips. And that's because I feel like I'm a beggar. Like I am begging for your tip in order for me to make an income. And that's where these gig companies are the problem. But because we are essentially finding the best tipper on these apps and accepting that order, that can be very unstable. Some days it's the $3 tippers, other days it's $9 tippers. And then we have, my favorite, the anybody in the $20 price range tipper, because they don't know how much they just help me throughout my week, because I thought it was going to be a good week and I didn't make good money on gig work. So every time I get those $20 plus tippers, which those are rare, I am so thankful because they help making up for a bad week. Now, do you think that that's the way you want to work? Do you want to go through your work week praying for those $20 plus tippers because of the fact that your work has been unstable this week because either tips are low, volume of orders is low, etc., etc.? If the answer is no, well, then you just found out why I rank this number one reason for not being a gig worker is due to unstable income. On to reason number 2, and I'm just starting to warm up here. If you think I'm negative, just wait. The next one is, especially if you're working for gig companies like Instacart, Uber Eats, or even Grubhub, it's tip baiting. I mean, let's reflect back just a moment here. I just mentioned that we are basically tip oriented, which means the majority of our income comes from tips. Pretty self-explanatory. Now, how would you feel if I told you that if you work for either Uber Eats, Instacart, or for Grubhub, that main part of your salary can be ripped away from a customer anytime that they want? That's a total line of BS if I ever heard some. But unfortunately, it comes with the territory of being a gig worker. Because these gig companies, the 3 that I just mentioned, allow for customers to modify the tip after drop-off. Sadly, they're too stupid enough to know not to modify it to $0 because it will just penalize us. But do you think these gig apps give a damn? No. You can be tip baited from these companies. And again, this is me not being negative. This is talking the truth, people. Don't put your panties in a bunch. Even if that's still an expression, by the way, that's a horrible expression. But at the end of the day, tip baiting is not something that any of us can get removed. You hear about boycotting. You hear about striking. I will say this one time, guys. We are independent contractors. They don't care unless a lawsuit comes out. And for a lawsuit, it has to be a lot of wrongdoing, and just a couple of us probably won't get very far with it. But when it comes to striking and such, we're not unionized. It's not going to get very far. And for every gig driver that goes on strike, there's another one hitting the road today. And that's why when it comes to striking, I'm not down for it because, to be honest, I'm going to lose out on more money than my tips if I start doing that. So that's why you got to be mindful and you got to be cautious. If you are going to go into this line of work, feel free. I'm still in it. I don't mind it. But tip baiting is a huge factor with gig companies, and it's not about to go anywhere. The next one is actually one of my preferred favorites because it's my money-making opportunity, but it might not be for you. When it comes to being a delivery driver, one reason why you might want to avoid being one is because the worst weather is the best money maker. Now, if you are not somebody that wants to go out when you're getting 30 centimeters of snow dumped on you, which is very common here in Montreal, then you don't want to be a gig worker. Or if it's downpour rain and you're worried about your phone, you don't want to be a gig worker. Or what about like a day like today currently in Montreal? It's plus 33 degrees without the humidex. Well, then you don't want to be a gig worker. Because within being a gig worker, a lot of people are not going to order off these apps on beautiful, gorgeous summer days like we do get a lot across Canada. And so because of that, you're going to lose out on money on the good days where you want to be out because it needs to be on the bad days where everybody else wants to stay in order for you to make the most amount of money. If I had to say my least favorite weather condition to go out and do gig work, it's actually rainy days. Because I find when it's rainy days, more customers feel like, ugh, I have no choice but to order off the apps because I don't want to go to the restaurant and get the food. It's raining out. But I didn't want to use the app, so no, I'm not going to tip. I get so many non-tippers when it's raining days, and that is because of the fact that they didn't want to go on the apps to begin with. They already know that they're paying more money because they're going to be paying the fees and the base charges that are on these apps, which we've already all studied. It is more expensive to use the apps because of what the companies charge versus going to the restaurant directly yourself. But because the customers are already paying more, they think that's enough and they place through their order. Rainy days are not a win situation for me or for my customers because more of them feel obligated to use the app and more of them do not want to tip. So if you're somebody that wants to capitalize on rainy days, maybe in your market it's going to benefit for you, but if you're on the South Shore of Montreal, I would definitely not encourage it. The list is still pretty low if you ask me, but let's continue onwards. Are you a person that likes to fix your brakes? Are you a person that likes to buy brand new 4 tires? I mean, sure, you can get them used, but whatever floats your boat. Are you a person that is looking to put money into your vehicle? If the answer to all of these questions is no, then gig work is not for you, and here's the reasons why. Unfortunately, when it comes to being a delivery driver, many people just say, well, I have a car, so I can do it. But there are so many factors towards your personal car that you should not be putting towards gig work. And take it from the woman that's learned it the hard way. You don't want to do that. Not if you don't want to ruin your car. If you're a person that for your regular line of work, like me, you did customer service, so you never really used your car, maybe you work from home, it's understandable you got some space for some more mileage. But even if you have more space for more mileage, the more you use, the more wear and tear happens on your vehicle. And it's mechanics. It's how it works. Parts and pieces on cars don't have lifetime warranties. They don't have no matter through what grind warranties. Everything wears down after time. And when you are using your vehicle for this line of work, you're using it even more so stuff is going to break faster. And you can see my YouTube video where I talked about that and how it cost me over $2,000 in the last couple of months alone in having my car to get it repaired than what it has in the last 5 years I've had it. And that's because after 3 years of doing gig work, even though I bought the car brand new in 2020, even going from customer service to now all of a sudden doing kilometers, it impacted the car and it cost me a lot of money. And because of this, how could I not be a negative Nancy and talk about the cost when I have personally ditched them out of my pocket just so I can keep on doing gig work? Now, this next one might sting a little, but honey, I don't make the rules, I just go through the process. I have gone through the process of facing one thing over and over and over again since being a gig worker, and it's not just me that does it, the banks do it too, and that's judgment. Okay, when you are a gig worker or a delivery driver and you pull into a restaurant with your phone out and a delivery bag, yes, expect to see those fine diners giving you the stink eye. It happens. Get over it, because it's going to happen. Or you're going to walk up to a kitchen counter to request an order for a customer, and guess what? You're going to be judged by the person working behind the counter. Why? Well, maybe they had bad interactions with gig workers, but it doesn't matter. You will face that judgment. Or the fact that if you have saved thousands of dollars for a down payment on that house and you are slaying away and making mad money doing gig work, and you pull up to the bank and you say, I want to get a loan to get my first house, expect to feel the biggest source of rejection you might have ever felt in your life, because the banks won't trust you because of the fact that you don't have stable income. So because of that, they're going to judge you no matter how much money you make. Don't hate me for saying it. It is the truth when it comes to being a gig worker. I am fortunate enough that when I worked for TELUS, I was able to buy my house and showcase that I had stable income where I made per hour plus commission, and it was very good money. I had my partner's salary, we had two high credit scores, and we had a down payment for the house. And so because of this, I was able to get a house. But it pisses me off so much now that fast forward, I've been self-employed for the last three and a half years. Yeah, 3 years. And I have been able to still pay my half of the mortgage. And somebody who is in this line of work, who has the grind, the grit, and everything it takes to get that money that they want for that home, can forever be refused because a bank will turn around and say it's not stable income. If I can do it, they can do it too. Just because I had a title of a job with an employer before doesn't mean that I can't get what is needed to make the payments. But you will be judged and you will be declined. Or ask anybody that's gone through this process when they are self-employed and tried to buy their first home, the tortures that they went through with the bank before they could ever get the green light. It's not me being harsh on gig work. It's not me trying to judge gig work. But judgment from being a gig worker is a thing that you have to get used to. Embrace it. Because you know what? Some people might just be jealous that they can't do the schedule that you can do. Maybe they don't drive and they wish that they had their driver's license so that they can do gig work. Maybe they need that schedule for their kids or their family. So don't mind the judgment. Let it go. But it is something you're definitely going to have to face. This is one that not many think about, but you need to know about, and it's one reason why you might want to avoid gig work. When you are self-employed doing food deliveries or gig work services through these applications, you are not receiving any kind of health benefit, and this specifically applies to my fellow Canadians. Here in Quebec, if you don't have health insurance, you follow under what's called RAMQ, which is a Quebec health insurance no matter what, but it's not the same, and it's still, you don't even get registered like I wasn't. It's a hard process to get established. Some people think it's automatic. For me, it wasn't. So I had to spend quite a lot of my time on the phone with RAMQ to get things sorted out. 6 months after that, my partner got stable work with benefits, and we were transferred over to her insurance company. But here's the problem. Previously, I used to pay for my son under my benefits, which were the better benefits. And now she doesn't just have to pay for our son, but she pays for me too. So even though we're under insurance company now, and we're properly under somebody else's benefits, I feel guilty. I feel like I'm not the main breadwinner anymore, and that's because gig work has been astonished in such a way that sometimes it is hard to be the main breadwinner. But as well, for me not being able to supply benefits to my family, I feel a little bit more incompetent compared to what I used to be able to do. It's something I have accepted now that she gets to be the main breadwinner. But I've been with my partner for 11 years, and for 8 out of the 11 years, I was the main source of income. I was the main source of benefits, not her. So that's been a tough pill to swallow. But it's not the end of the world, at least in my case. But I'd be lying if I said that benefits isn't a huge principle. Because if you're going under a group insurance that's provided by the government, I'm telling you now, you're going to pay that back during taxes. But then additionally, you don't feel the same as what you used to when you used to work at an employer. I think today I have covered a pretty good deep dive on the main things that would make you want to avoid doing gig work. But at the end of the day, for me, being a gig worker is something I'm not going to stop. When I combine it with the lifestyle choices that I have, with being a mom, with being a content creator, it's actually a really good route for me. But everybody's case scenario is different. And for those that think that I'm a negative Nancy, I apologize if it comes across that way, even though I still don't really care. But I don't want you to think that that's what I'm trying to be. Being brutally honest sometimes gives a negative impression, and that's okay. because those negative impressions come with experience. I don't do it to be a negative Nancy. I'm still doing this line of work and I'm here to stay. But I do it to be brutally honest. And sometimes in order for me to be brutally honest, I dig into my feelings and I dig into my experience and I bring that forward. Because the last thing I want to be doing is clickbaiting or putting anybody in the wrong direction that shouldn't be knowing the truth about being a gig worker. But that's all I have for now. And I'll catch you lovelies in the next podcast.